Organization of cells in a multicellular organism. An organism may be made up of millions of cells of many different types. The cells in an organism are not all alike, nor do they have the same jobs. Cells specialize to perform specific functions and are organized to perform these functions. For example, bone cells serve very different functions from skin cells. Organized groups of cells work together to carry out a specific function by forming tissues. In the human body, for example, muscle tissue attached to bones contracts and relaxes to make the body move. Tissues may combine to form organs. The heart is made up of muscle tissues working together to provide the power to pump blood throughout the body. Groups of organs working together form larger systems with specific functions. The heart, blood vessels, and arteries work together to move blood throughout the body. The blood carries nutrients to and waste away from parts of the body. The systems of an organism work together to perform life functions such as circulation, digestion, respiration, movement, and reproduction. Test-taking tips. Emphasis on the words most clearly in the question tells you that more than one answer choice might make sense. To answer correctly, determine which answer choice is best supported by the rest of the passage. p1.01, which sentence from the passage most clearly states the main idea? A. An organism may be made up of millions of cells of many different types. B. The cells in an organism are not all alike, nor do they have the same jobs. C. Cells specialize to perform specific functions and are organized to perform these functions. D. Organized groups of cells work together to carry out a specific function by forming tissues. Nervous system. The human body is organized into systems, such as the nervous system. The nervous system includes the brain, the spinal cord, and about 100 billion nerve cells, or neurons. Neurons carry signals through the body that allow a person to move, sense things, think, and learn. The illustration shows a neuron. Neuron diagram, labeled with dendrites, cell body, axon. p1.02, which detail from the illustration supports the main idea that neurons carry signals to allow a person to move, sense things, think, and learn. A. Axons send messages out from neurons. B. The cell body of a neuron is irregular in shape. C. Dendrites have many branches. D. Axons are thicker than dendrites. What bones do? Bones operate with muscles to move the body. They also safeguard internal organs such as the heart and lungs. Bones store calcium and other minerals for the body to use. Additionally, the marrow inside bones produces both red and white blood cells. p1.03, which sentence would best fit in this passage to state the main idea? A. Some bone cells release calcium into the blood. B. Bone can be compact or spongy. C. Bones are reshaped throughout a person's life. D. The skeletal system has numerous functions. Digestive system and digestion. Esophagus. Food enters the esophagus after you swallow. Stomach muscles contract and help mix food with digestive juices that continue to break down food. Small intestine. Partially digested food enters the small intestine. Juices from the pancreas and small intestine and bile from the liver complete digestion in the small intestine. The walls of the small intestine absorb digested food. Nutrients pass into the bloodstream. Large intestine wastes pass into the large intestine. p1.04, which statement expresses the main idea of the illustration? A. Digestion begins even before a person swallows. B. Digestion is mostly complete when the food leaves the small intestine. C. Digestion is a complex process involving several organs. D. Digestion takes place mostly in the stomach. p1.05, which detail explains that secretions from organs aid with digestion in the small intestine? A. Partially digested food moves from the stomach to the small intestine. B. Pancreatic juice, intestinal juice, and bile complete digestion in the small intestine. C. The walls of the small intestine absorb digested food. D. Nutrients pass from the small intestine into the bloodstream. Digestive system diagram, labeled with esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and arrows explaining the flow and functions of each part. Levels of organization. Content topics. The human body has many organs, but its largest organ is the skin. The skin is made up of 3 layers. Each contains various tissues and cells. The skin is part of the integumentary system. p2.01, which statement best expresses the main idea of the graphic? A. In a multicellular organism, cells are organized by function. B. Cells in a multicellular organism are organized by their size. C. The organs in a multicellular organism have different functions. D. A multicellular organism has more systems than organs. p2.02, which sentence expresses a supporting detail of the graphic? A. The skin is made up of 3 layers. B. Cells are different shapes and sizes. C. Groups of similar cells form tissues. D. Muscles can be smooth, cardiac, or skeletal. Moving oxygen through the body. The circulatory system carries oxygen to all the cells in the body through the blood. To do this, the circulatory system acts in conjunction with the respiratory system. Oxygen enters the blood and moves to the rest of the body through a cycle involving the heart, lungs, and blood vessels. Blood from the body's cells flows through blood vessels to the heart. This blood contains very little oxygen because the cells have used most of the available oxygen. The heart pumps the oxygen-poor blood to the lungs, where it flows through tiny blood vessels. Next, oxygen in the air in the lungs moves through the walls of the blood vessels and into the blood. Special cells in the blood absorb the oxygen. Then the blood moves through larger blood vessels back to the heart. The heart pumps the oxygen-rich blood through blood vessels to the rest of the body. As the blood moves through the body, the cells absorb oxygen from it. Finally, the oxygen-poor blood moves back to the heart, and the cycle repeats. p2.03. Which statement expresses the main idea of the passage? A. The circulatory system and respiratory system work together to get oxygen to cells. B. Blood moving from cells to the heart contains very little oxygen. C. The heart provides the power to pump the blood through the body. D. Oxygen is taken in by the lungs and moved to the blood. Body systems working together. Some body systems work in tandem. For example, when nutrients are absorbed through the wall of the small intestine, parts of food that the body cannot digest are left behind as waste. The waste moves into and through the large intestine. There, most of the water in it is absorbed, making the waste very compact. The compact waste materials, which are known as feces, move into the rectum. The feces are stored in the rectum until they are eliminated from the body through the anus. So the large intestine is a part of both the digestive system and the excretory system. p2.04, which detail best supports the main idea of the passage? A. Water is absorbed in the large intestine. B. Compact waste materials are called feces. C. Nutrients are absorbed through the wall of the small intestine. D. The large intestine is part of the digestive tract but also eliminates waste. Muscular system. There are 3 main types of muscle. Skeletal muscle is the muscle that is attached to bone. This type of muscle controls the body's movements by contracting and relaxing. Each skeletal muscle fiber is a single muscle cell. Cardiac muscle, another muscle type, is known as heart muscle because it is found only in the heart. Cardiac muscle works with the circulatory system to circulate blood throughout the body. The third type of muscle is smooth muscle, which makes up the walls of internal organs. For example, the walls of the stomach and intestines are composed of smooth muscle. This muscle pushes food along through the digestive tract. Smooth muscle acts involuntarily, that is, it contracts and relaxes on its own. p2.05, Which statement expresses the main idea of the passage? A. Skeletal muscle fibers are made up of single muscle cells. B. Cardiac muscle works along with the circulatory system to move blood. C. The three types of muscle play different roles in the muscular system. D. Internal organs are walled with smooth muscle. p2.06 How do the details support the main idea of the passage? A. They identify data collected during an investigation of how muscles move. B. They list all the ways in which skeletal muscles move the body. C. They explain how smooth muscles push food through the digestive tract. D. They describe each of the three types of muscle. Nervous system. Illustration shows receptor neuron, sensory neuron, association neuron, motor neuron, effector neuron. Receptor neuron translates what body senses into nerve impulses. Sensory neuron. Association neuron, located in brain and spinal cord, determines meaning of message. Motor neuron. Effector neuron carries out instructions from brain. The nervous system includes many types of nerve cells, or neurons. They all have different functions. When someone sees a delicious-looking piece of chocolate cake, receptor neurons in the eyes recognize the cake. They send the image of the cake along sensory neurons to association neurons in the brain and spinal cord. In a fraction of a second, the brain decides how the body should respond. The brain may decide that the correct response is to reach for the cake. As a result, the brain sends the signal through the motor neurons to the effector neurons in the hand. The muscles in the person's hand move, and he or she grasps the plate that holds the cake. p2.07 Which statement expresses the main idea of the illustration and passage? A. Nerve impulses follow a specific path through different neurons to determine meaning and make the body react. B. Effector neurons carry out instructions from the brain. C. The brain and spinal cord are responsible for making sense of messages from sensory neurons. D. Motor neurons and sensory neurons deliver messages. p2.08 What detail does the illustration provide to support most directly the main idea of the illustration and passage? A. Examples of the shapes of different types of neurons. B. An explanation of the role of the brain and spinal cord. C. Descriptions of specific functions of three types of neurons. D. An example of something the body senses. p2.09 Which detail could be added to the passage to support the main idea of the illustration and passage? A. Neurons have a nucleus and genetic material like other cells. B. There are three classes of neurons, and each class includes hundreds of different types of neurons. C. Neurons are the longest cells in the body. D. Some brain diseases are caused by the unnatural death of neurons. Endocrine system. The endocrine system is made up primarily of glands that secrete hormones, such as testosterone and estrogen. Hormones secreted by the endocrine system control growth, metabolism, sexual development, and other body functions. Illustration of human body showing labeled glands: hypothalamus, thyroid gland, adrenal gland, pancreas, testicle. p2.10 Which statement expresses the main idea of the passage? A. The endocrine system is centrally located in the body. B. The endocrine system comprises glands that make hormones to regulate body systems. C. The endocrine system keeps the body in a state of balance. D. The endocrine system controls sexual maturation. p2.11 Which detail could be added to the passage to support the main idea? A. The pituitary gland, a major part of the endocrine system, produces 7 hormones. B. The pituitary gland has an anterior lobe and a posterior lobe. C. The pituitary gland is located in the brain near the hypothalamus. D. The pituitary gland is very tiny, about the size of a pea. p2.12 Which statement best expresses the main idea of the illustration? A. The pancreas is the largest endocrine gland. B. The thyroid gland is located in the neck. C. Endocrine glands affect sexual development. D. Glands throughout the body are part of the endocrine system. Hormone balance. The endocrine system uses hormones, which are chemical messengers, to regulate the body's activities. The body needs just the right amount of each hormone to stay healthy and balanced. To provide the appropriate amount of each hormone, the endocrine system has feedback loops. These loops signal parts of the endocrine system to produce more or less of a certain hormone. The illustration shows feedback mechanisms involved in the production of growth hormone. Illustration of feedback loop: hypothalamus receives feedback from body regarding growth hormone needs, makes and releases signaling hormones. Signaling hormone to stimulate release of growth hormone / signaling hormone to inhibit release of growth hormone. Pituitary gland makes and releases growth hormone. p2.13, the title of an illustration often tells its main idea. Which title best expresses the main idea of this illustration? A. How growth hormone is inhibited. B. Endocrine feedback loop. C. Growth hormone regulation in the body. D. Monitoring of growth in the human body.